Dear colleagues, we continue our working day, and the topic of the current press briefing is current situation and tendencies on the temporary occupied areas of Donetsk and Luhansk regions. Our interlocutor is Vadym Skybytskyi, Minister of Defense of Ukraine. Chief Intelligence Department. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we will provide you with the current review of the current situation in the occupied territories of Donetsk and Luhansk region. The main intelligence department had revealed that Russia carries out preparatory measures aimed at reviving active combat activities in the occupied territories. So the major goal here is to strengthen pressure on Ukraine and creating the preconditions for review of the Minsk agreement. And the main threats of Ukraine are as follows: the enlarging of the scale of the Russian aggression against Ukraine and the state terrorism of the Russian special services aimed at destabilizing the situation in Ukraine. In course of preparing to the active combat activities in the territory of Ukraine, Russian command carries out large-scale military exercises, and here major attention is devoted to the assault and offensive component. Thus, between March 22 and March 24, the special inspection and exercises of the air forces and the exercises of the Southern Military District was carried out with the involvement of the military detachment deployed in Crimea. They used 30,000 of Russian servicemen, 3,500 of military equipment, and more than 100 aircrafts in order to control and supervise the activities of military detachments in Crimea and Sebastopol. Minister of Defense Shoigu visited Crimea on March 22nd. Also, the Russian troops carry out special exercises of the assault aircrafts, and taking into account that their air forces were withdrawn from Syria, they can use it easily in Donbas. Also, they use the exercises in training all sorts of offensive combats and activities, especially near Kuznetsova, Mikhailivka. And those exercises were visited by the Minister of Defense of so-called DPR, Kononov. During the last period of time, we have registered considerable raising activities of Russian troops near Slavyansk, Donetsk, Volnovakha, and they tried to extend the territory under their control. They strengthened the intensity of shellings near Avdiivka and Novotroitsk. Also, they improved them engineering equipment along the entire contact line, or trying to set new directions for offensive and trying to reveal our defense points. They use the unmanned drones and other measures like the reconnaissance aircrafts Su-24. Thus, during the last week, we registered 4 flights of those reconnaissance aircrafts. Also, the enemies continue to violate Minsk agreements about ceasefire. During the last week, we registered 293 shellings of Ukrainian positions, during 122, 152 artillery systems, tanks, armored vehicles, mortars, and anti-air systems. The most intensive fire was near Slavyansk and Donetsk. Also, we have registered the use of heavy military equipment along the contact line. 33 facts of these violations were registered. In general, we revealed 21 hail installations near Gorlevka, Debaltseva, Kirov, Stakhanov, Kartsysk. This information is forwarded to the Joint Center for Control and Coordination. Russia continues to supply ammunition and military weaponry and equipment, fuel and oil materials to the militants in the non-controlled territory. Thus, they supplied 11 tanks, 16 armored vehicles, 2 artillery installations, and around 200 tons of fuels. And trying to disguise the renovation of these military activities, the militants and the Russians make a lot of obstacles for the OSCE mission. They denied access to this mission on March 18 to Bryanka, and also on March 22 near Bezemen. Besides that, Russian occupational troops continue to ruin infrastructure and eliminate industrial potential of the occupied territories. During the last week, they additionally mined the Donetsk filtration station, the railway bridge, and the adjacent territory near town Donetsk in Luhansk region. Also, we revealed that equipment from Gorlevsky machine building plant and near Kartsysk machine building plant was dismantled and evacuated to Russia. The main intelligence department of the Ministry of Defense continues to identify those Russian servicemen who are involved in military crimes commitment in Ukraine. Thus, we revealed that the command over artillery units of Russian troops acting in Ukraine is carried out by General Mayor Yarashchuk Stepan, who makes personal decision about using artillery counter against ATO troops and Donbas residents. Also, we revealed that the head of artillery of the 1st Army Corps is Mr. Yangelsky. And we collect all the information which would allow us to accuse them in that military crimes. Thus, the development of the situation around Ukraine and in occupied territories of our state is characterized with the continuous preparations of Russian occupational troops to resuming of military activities, and Russian Federation carries out measures to annihilate the negotiation process in Minsk. Also, the leadership of Russian Federation and the occupational Crimean powers continue to deteriorate the situation in the peninsula. Sevastopol and Crimea take 76 and 71st positions among 85 subjects of Russian Federation. The wages drop and the quality of life deteriorates there. Thus, situation results in non-satisfaction of the local authorities, and we can see the slogans calling to bring Crimea back to Ukraine. These are the facts about today's Crimea, and now I'm ready to answer your questions. Thank you.
If you have no questions or comments, we will